April is finally here and the NFL draft is taking place this month, and I could not be more excited. The biggest event of the NFL offseason takes place this month, which of course is the NFL draft. We have one of the best prospects in the past 10 years being selected in Trevor Lawrence, the 49ers trading multiple first-round picks to go up and get their guy, and a whole lot more to take place that, simply put, we don't know what will happen quite yet. In today's video, we're going to be discussing how the first few picks of the draft will go and what we think happens with each and every one of these picks. Now, as you can guess, the first pick has all but been announced, so instead of spending a minute or two discussing Trevor to the Jags, we're going to go right into pick number 2 in the New York Jets and then proceed from there. But before we get started, we are less than 15 subscribers from 23,000, so please like the video and subscribe to the channel, as each only take a second to do, and it would be very much appreciated. Now let's begin. Number 2 is the New York Jets, and while this pick isn't basically public like the first pick with Trevor is, at minimum, NFL teams know who the selection is. So in reality, this draft, and like the last 2 drafts for that matter, start at number 3 overall. Everyone knew last year that with the historical season Joe Burrow had and beating countless top 10 teams and throwing for nearly 6,000 yards and 60 touchdowns, well, he was the easy number 1 pick, and immediately after him was a defensive end prospect who could have been the best defensive prospect in over 10 years in Chase Young. Those two were set in stone, and it was a matter of what Detroit did at 3 that would determine the rest of the draft, and I think it is the same again, and here's why. Philadelphia, as we know, traded back last week from number 6 overall, which did make a lot of their fan base unhappy given that they would then miss out on getting wide receiver Jamar Chase. But what was announced in the middle of all of this that may have been traded up to number 3 themselves if they had a shot at getting Zach Wilson. And what I want you guys to know about the number 2 overall pick and the general manager Joe Douglas is he is a former employee of the Philadelphia Eagles, meaning him and Howie Roseman either have a good relationship or at least a solid enough of a relationship to discuss what the intentions were with the number 2 overall pick and what they intend on doing. And the reality for Joe Douglas is he could tell any GM in the NFL he is taking Zach Wilson now, and it really doesn't matter because there's nothing anybody can do about it from a front office standpoint. The Eagles and Jets are not division rivals by any means, and Joe telling Howie they are selecting Wilson with the number 2 overall pick, or at minimum implying it, told Howie everything he needed to know about not trading up to number 3 overall with the Dolphins then choosing there. So with all of this being said, the draft starts at number 3 overall, and I cannot be told otherwise at this point in time. And as we know, the 49ers traded a fortune to move up to number 3 overall, and it is a matter of who their guy is. And like we just said with Howie trading up to number 3, I'm sure there was a conversation at a point between John Lynch and Joe Douglas, because again, the Jets can tell the 49ers who they're picking, and it really doesn't matter at all. Now, the selection at 3rd overall boils down to which prospect John Lynch likes most between Trey Lance, Justin Fields, and Mac Jones. As we've seen the past few years with their current quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo, QBs that are non-mobile are obviously limited, and when looking at the top young quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, and no, I'm not trying to forget anybody else, none are true pocket passers like we see with Tom Brady, and I do not expect them to take Mac Jones at number 3 overall largely due to this. Mac is a very limited athletic quarterback, and being compared to or even to be in the same breath as Tom Brady is not only ridiculous but not fair either. Mac is a good prospect but not an elite can't miss, and I don't think there's any way he goes number 3 overall. We will get to him later, but if they do take him here, then I will say, to me at least, this would be one of the most shocking picks of all time given what they traded up to get up here. But the pick will come down to Fields and Lance in my opinion, and Fields is without a doubt the more polished prospect at this point in time. Now, who has the higher ceiling is certainly a debate worth having, but there should not be a debate between the more polished product is right now. Now, I absolutely love Fields to the 49ers and how he would fit their system, and what would benefit Justin is if he is indeed selected there, well, at times he did stare down receivers a bit, and especially Chris Olave at times at Ohio State. This was not every single decision and every single passing play to be clear, but having a huge safety net in George Kittle would be great for him or for Trey Lance if indeed they are selected there. Kittle is obviously one of the best tight ends in the game, and he will no doubt become one of their best friends almost immediately and certainly help their transition to the NFL. Kittle will be 28 years old this year and will play for the next 4 to 5 years at least, and for fantasy players and people that have him in Dynasty, he should be an absolute monster due to this. If I made a prediction right now for this pick, I would predict Justin Fields to go here and therefore give us a 1-2-3 of Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, and Justin Fields. Now, we know the first 3 picks are going to be 3 quarterbacks, but where the draft starts, or at least the potential for a non-quarterback, starts at number 4 overall with the Atlanta Falcons. Now, Matt Ryan will be 36 years old at the start of the 2021 season, and the Falcons have a new GM and head coach who have no ties to him. They have stated they want to keep it going with him and have him be their quarterback for the next 2 years, and honestly, I do believe them, as in I don't think they're just throwing smoke at the media and they're going to take a quarterback at number 4. I genuinely believe them. Now, Matt Ryan can be a polarizing quarterback to fans. Some Falcons fans think he is a great quarterback, while others are ready to move on. He has 10 consecutive 4,000-yard passing seasons, and what this means is Matt Ryan has not thrown for less than 4,000 yards in a season since any of these QB prospects were in at least middle school, in some cases younger. To expect the next QB to have this kind of success is a lot on any player, Trevor Lawrence included. But what must be said is the Falcons will probably not be addressing the QB situation, and truth be told, I don't expect them to make this selection. There is a very real possibility all of the first 4 picks are quarterbacks, and I do think either Carolina or Denver trades up to get this pick. Now, the division trading, as we know in regular season, if a player like Jalen Ramsey wanted out of Jacksonville and wanted to go to Indy, that would never happen. But in the draft, that kind of goes out the window. And I do think Atlanta would take less from Denver, given they and the Broncos generally stay out of each other's way. Not to say Carolina could offer 2 number 1s and a second-round pick, and Denver could offer pick 9 and a third-round pick this year and move up, but if it came to an extra third-round pick not being offered somewhere down the line between Carolina and Denver, then I do think Atlanta would give the benefit of the doubt to the Broncos to keep Trey Lance, at least who we assume at this time, out of the division and out of playing them twice a year for the next 10 to 15 years. So with the first 4 selections being established, we have the Bengals at 5, and this is not as obvious as a selection as it once was. We thought from mid-October on that the Bengals were an atrocious team with an atrocious offensive line, and we thought for sure Penny Sewell to Cincinnati, book it, and move on. If there was a mock draft in October from really to now, as long as another offensive tackle needy team wasn't in front of them, it was circle Penny Sewell to the Bengals and move on. Let's go. Well, things aren't as simple as they once were, as Joe Burrow recently has advocated for drafting his former LSU teammate Jamar Chase, and this is going to make things a little more complicated for the Bengals than they would like to admit. The good news for Cincinnati is they did sign veteran tackle Riley Reiff this offseason, and he was good for the Vikings in 2020. Now, he wasn't elite all-pro level, but he was much better than what the Bengals had on their line for the most part this past year. Now, Joe Burrow is the best thing to happen to the Bengals franchise in the past 5 to 10 years, and they would be wise to keep him happy, and this goes a long way. Now, I'm going to be honest, I love the top 2 receivers they currently have in Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, but adding Jamar Chase to that mix would make them a great receiving trio and immediately throw them in the top 5 or 10 receiving core in the league. Now, I say top 10 loosely because I really do think it'd be top 5. They really didn't throw much thought into the top 5 rankings of trios, but they would be very much up there. Now, this pick is far from locked like we thought it was a month or 2 ago, and this is a big reason I think the Eagles chose to trade back from number 6. The obvious conclusion or thought after the Dolphins traded back to 12 was that Jamar will now go to Philly, and this is why Eagles fans were furious when Howie made the decision to trade back to 12. I'm not saying the Bengals and Eagles talked the way I believe Howie and Joe Douglas did with pick 2, but I do think NFL teams know the Bengals have had Jamar Chase on their radar now for a lot longer than most mock drafts have projected them to get Penny Sewell and write this pick off. If I were to make a mock draft today 4 weeks prior to the NFL draft, I would have the Bengals taking Jamar Chase and getting quarterback Joe Burrow back with his former college teammate and have them wreak havoc in the NFL for the next decade. And the Dolphins have the 6th pick in the draft, and as we know, have traded back and now traded back up. They will more than likely have their choice of the top 2 receiving targets between Jamar Chase and Kyle Pitts, and the only question at this point is, who will they choose? Kyle Pitts had an incredible pro day and had absolutely insane measurements, and while we know Kyle was a great prospect before, a low 4.4 40 and 83-inch arms are incredible for a player his size. A team will get him and be able to throw jump balls, and Pitts will turn 50-50 balls to 85-15 balls, and this will be viewed as an offensive weapon simply rather than a receiver. A corner will be far too small to guard him, and a linebacker 99 out of 100 times will not be able to cover him because he is too big and too fast for them. If Chase is off the board, I would imagine this is the pick just because they need a weapon in the worst way, and Pitts would be a safety blanket for Tua, like George Kittle will be for whichever quarterback gets drafted by the 49ers. There is a possibility of 5 QBs going in the top 6, but I don't think a team would trade up with Miami when more than likely them and Detroit are not trading out of their picks as they each need weapons in the worst way. So the likelihood of Jamar, Kyle Pitts, and Devontae Smith going 5, 6, 7, or even Jamar, Kyle Pitts, and Jalen Waddle is very real at this point in time. Other elite players in this class like a Penny Sewell and like a Micah Parsons will slide down the board due to this, and although they aren't bad players, they are going to receive less of a payday, and that is simply out of their control. I do think there will be 5 QBs drafted in the top 8, with Carolina being the last team to draft one, or at least potentially the last team to draft one at number 8, and I really hope a team does not reach and make it 6 in the first round. We say this every year that this next year's class isn't as good as this year's currently is, but there will be no Trevor Lawrence next year, and there may not be a Justin Fields or a Zach Wilson either. Technically, there is the possibility of someone having a breakout Joe Burrow type year that none of us see coming, but those are rare and definitely not normal. It is April, which means it is officially draft season, and I cannot wait to see how this goes in a few weeks, and as you guys know, I will be posting a lot of videos between now and then a lot immediately after. Now, that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. At some point soon, we will reach 23,000 subscribers, and I cannot thank you guys enough for the continued support. I say this every video, but I do love you guys, and I'm extremely appreciative of the support, and I will see you guys next time. Until then, have a great day. Love you guys. Deuces. Peace.